What's up, everyone, and welcome back. I noticed I got some new subscribers while I was away, so to all of you, thank you and welcome to the channel. If you haven't already done so and want to follow along, please consider subscribing. I know it's been a while, but things at work have been still pretty crazy, and I've been working like 60 to 90 hours a week, and because of that, I'm either at work or at home, just too exhausted to do anything except lay there. Enough excuses, let's go ahead and get into the next video here. Now, before we get started, I need to go over something that I should have mentioned in the previous inventory video. After you unload and organize everything, be sure to inspect all of the powder-coated parts for any bare or lightly painted spots or areas that may have gotten scratched or worn down during travel. The 4130 steel will corrode very quickly if you don't protect it, so be sure to inspect everything and fix any areas that need it before you get started. Now, I was able to find a few spots that were worn down to bare metal that needed fixing, and to fix these spots I followed the metal preparation for painting section in the manual. The section says to sandblast the area using fine number 30 grit sand. As always, whenever you're dealing with any chemicals, sandblasting, or anything that can do bodily harm, be sure to follow warnings and read material safety data sheets, because you know you probably want to be healthy enough to fly the plane when it's done. While I was sandblasting, I was getting a lot of blowback, so be sure to wear eye protection while you're doing this. Once you have that all sandblasted, you just need to use a clean rag and denatured alcohol to clean it up. Now, the epoxy primer that you want to use does not come with the kit. I ordered it from Aircraft Spruce, but you can order it from Kitfox. I will leave the part number in the description below. But the epoxy primer kit comes with the epoxy primer, epoxy reducer, and the epoxy primer catalyst. On Aircraft Spruce, at least, it only comes in either white or green. Since my kit is black, I went with the dark green color. You may be able to get different colors from Kitfox though. So once you got the paint all mixed up, you can go ahead and apply it. This area that I'm applying it is going to be covered, so I just use a paintbrush. But if you need to fix an area that's going to be visible that isn't getting covered, you may want to use a paint sprayer just so it's more even. Now, the first thing you're going to work on when you get started is the horizontal tail assembly, and starting with the horizontal stabilizer and the elevator. To start, you'll need to ream these hinge bushings and hinge tabs. I swear I got video of it, but I cannot find that video now, so here's a video of me doing that same process on the fuselage. Now, reaming has actually been one of the harder things I've had to do so far, mainly because it's usually in tight spots like you see here, but it was especially difficult on the horizontal stabilizer and elevator. I don't know if it's just because of the tool I'm using or what, but it was pretty difficult. If anyone has any better options than what I'm using here, definitely feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. Now, once the reaming is done, you're going to need to measure and mark all the locations that the ribs are going to go. The book mentions to not use a number 2 pencil on these because it can corrode the metal, so I've been using a black Sharpie for this. Now, here you're going to see me sanding stuff down. This is because I used the wrong glue earlier, so you can ignore that part. You won't have to do this, hopefully. Now, to measure, I used a flexible tape measure that you would usually use for like sewing. I just taped one end of it and then made my markings. That was a lot easier to use than a standard tape measure like you would get from Home Depot or Lowe's. So after everything was measured and marked, I went ahead and put the ribs in just to see how they fit. They're not going to fit out the box. You will have to do some adjustments to them to get them to fit. So basically here I'm just putting them in place and making any adjustments that I need to make to them until they fit properly. Here I'm using a Dremel tool. It's probably the tool that I've used the most so far. So if you don't have one, you'll definitely want to pick one up. And here we have the ribs cut and fit properly. Now the ribs for the elevator, I just line them up with the ribs for the horizontal stabilizer. But you can see this one is a bit long, so it's curving to the right. So just like we did with the horizontal stabilizers, we will have to cut these as well. Now the ribs for the elevator are a bit smaller and harder to work with, so I purchased this Dremel router shaper table just to make it a little bit easier. So you just need to set it in place and sort of eyeball it until you get it lined up perfectly with the rib for the horizontal stabilizer. Now for the longer rib pieces, Kitfox includes these plywood stiffeners that you just pretty much glue to them just to make them sturdier. Now you will want to apply epoxy to these, but to hold it on for the time being, I just use modeler's glue, which by the way is the glue that I should have used on the horizontal stabilizer and the elevator, but I used a different glue. It was like Loctite super glue or something, and that glue sort of ate away at the paint, so I had to sand those down and use that same epoxy paint that I used earlier in the video here. So while I let the glue for the stiffener dry, I just set it on a vise and put 2 clamps on it while I waited. So after the glue dries, I put them in place and use a square just to square everything up, make sure everything's nice and straight. Now the manual says to use modeler's glue, and this is the glue that I should have used from the get-go, but I used super glue instead and messed up the paint. So this is what I recommend that you use. It worked great for me so far. So I'll leave a link to this in the description, along with any of the other stuff that I used in this video. I'll be sure to put a link. So you'll basically be using this glue to hold the ribs in place. You'll be putting a more permanent epoxy on these later on. This is just to hold them in place while you do that. Now the epoxy, you'll have to combine the resin and the hardener together, and it does need to be pretty accurate. So you're going to need a scale that you can put the cup on and then zero it out like you see here. Once you have it zeroed out, you'll want to grab some of the hardener or the resin and then put a little bit at a time into the cup here. It's definitely not the easiest stuff to work with, but just keep working at it. Once you have a sufficient amount in there, go ahead and place it on the scale and weigh it. Here you can see it's 30 grams right now. So based on that, what you'll want to do is get another 30 of the resin in this case, just so you get a perfect match. And to help out, I got another stick just so I could scrape some of it off. So after I combine the 30 grams of the resin with the 30 grams of the hardener, we have 60 grams put together. So now you can go ahead and start mixing. So you just want to continue mixing it until it turns into this gray paste here with no white or black, just perfectly gray like you see here. Now you'll also notice that it's pretty runny right now. That's unusable in this state because once you apply it, it's going to run off and drip. So to fix that, you need to use Flox, which is included in the kit. So here we have the Flox, which is like this cotton powder stuff that helps thicken the epoxy so it doesn't drip anymore. Now I mentioned it before and I'll mention it again. Be sure to follow all the safety instructions and use protective gear. You don't want to inhale this stuff. So just add a little bit at a time and then mix it in. And just keep doing that until it's thick and doesn't run anymore. So right here is about where you want it. It's not really dripping anymore. It's pretty solid at this point. And we're ready to go and put it into the syringe now. Now the syringe I'm using came with the Kitfox toolkit. I think you can also find these on Amazon. I'll see if I can find one and put it in the link below. But basically you take the syringe apart and then you just want to scoop up the epoxy and stuff it in there. So once you got it in there, you can go ahead and apply it to the rib. This is the first one I did, so I'll admit I did a terrible job at it, but it's a bush plane. I'm not trying to win any awards or anything, but I did improve as I did more of them. The other ones looked a lot better. So that's it. Once you apply the epoxy to all the other ribs, you can go ahead and hang it up and let it cure. So that does it for this video. If you haven't already done so, please consider hitting that subscribe button and hit that bell notification. That way you'll get notified for any new videos I post. So thanks again for watching and see you on the next one.